Bayan Khan, thank you so much for agreeing to come to Erbil edition and do this show with me.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been planning to arrange this, and there's a range of topics I would like to talk to you about. Can we start with the most recent visit that you were part of to the United States representing the KRG? What was it for, and what were the meetings like?
Yes, so in July, I went to Washington with His Excellency Safin Dezay, the head of the Department of Foreign Relations. And we were really following up Prime Minister Barzani's visit to Washington in May. So we went exactly 2 months after his trip. We wanted to make sure that we didn't lose the momentum from his visit. As you may remember, Prime Minister Barzani had an excellent visit to Washington. He was very warmly welcomed by old friends and new friends, and especially the new Trump administration. He announced 2 very large energy deals while we were there and had very good meetings, including with Secretary Rubio. And having worked myself at the other end, where I was the KRG representative in Washington, I knew that visits like this, they can be great, but they can also lose momentum if there isn't follow-up. Of course, the representation led by Trifa Aziz has been following up, but to have a minister, Kak Safin, and myself as the Prime Minister's advisor visit helps her as well as us in maintaining the momentum. So broadly, that was the purpose of the visit.
And the other side, the Americans also probably expect follow-up with the KRG or with any government they deal with.
Absolutely. Europe, let's say the West, Europeans, North Americans, Australians, Japanese, they are very, very good at preparation and follow-up. And I'm being very general here. In the East, we are very weak at both, generally. I'm being honest. This is our culture. It's not unique only to Kurdistan. It's the Middle East generally, and maybe other cultures too around the world. But we, of course, in the KRG, we strive to do our homework and prepare, and then also to follow up. So absolutely, follow-up is essential.
And these visits, like this latest one, of course, they are built up on years of diplomacy and representation and good relations, let's say, between Erbil and Washington, right? It's not something new. It has a 20 or 30 years, probably even more, of diplomatic relations.
Absolutely. You're perfectly right. In the relationship with the United States, I would say it really dates back to 1991, when the US, UK, and France launched Operation Provide Comfort. That was a turning point in our history. This was a military humanitarian operation. It was huge. It's rarely been repeated. I would find it very hard to see it being done today, frankly.
Probably it was the invention of no-fly zone.
Yeah, maybe.
Because as you say, I don't know of cases before that,
Yes.
probably.
So yes, it led to the no-fly zone over the Kurdistan region, which remained in place until 2003 and protected us and enabled Kurdistan region to have elections, a parliament, establish a government, establish the Peshmerga as the legitimate military force of the Kurdistan region. So our relationship with the United States as it is today really dates back to 1991. Of course, after 2003 and even after 2005, when the constitution was established, the relationship has become more and more formal, more and more established, and deeper and wider, so that today, Of course, we have the security partnership, which is a strong pillar of our relationship with the United States. But we also have cultural relations. We have sister cities,
Yes.
for example, with Nashville and Sterling Heights in Michigan, and hopefully more are on the way.
These are sister cities of Erbil, Nashville,
Uh,
or
so,
I
if I
think
remember
Nashville.
correctly, Sterling Heights was with Ankawa,
Mm.
and Nashville is with Erbil. And there was another one signed just recently in Minnesota with Zaho.
Oh, yes, there was a
So,
delegation from Zaho in
yeah.
Minnesota.
So these are the ones I remember, and I apologize to anybody if I've forgotten another one. Um, but these are examples of cultural relations. There are also, of course, economic partnerships, and the biggest being in the energy sector. The United States has the biggest footprint in terms of billions of dollars invested, which is in the energy sector.
And there's a recent deal, also the latest or the biggest energy deal between the Kurdistan region, worth more than about $110 billion, I understand.
So this is the two energy deals that the Prime Minister announced in Washington in May with Western Zagros and HKN Energy. And together, over their lifetime, the two energy deals are valued at $110 billion. So pretty substantial, and a real statement of the commitment by the Kurdistan regional government and America
Hmm.
in our partnership. I
Yeah.
think it's a very strong statement.
Yeah, I was going to say it's also a recognition of Kurdistan region's potential as an energy source.
Absolutely. I mean, the potential here, we have tapped some of it, but there are still many blocks that haven't been explored, and they are waiting for investors. But also gas. There is a huge gas operation already, but there's potential for far more. And, I also work in climate change. And I know that in the climate world, there is this attempt to move away from fossil fuels. But the reality is they are here to stay. So what we need to do is think differently. I think the thinking that we can eliminate them quickly is unrealistic,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we should recognize, especially developing countries need fossil fuels to develop their economies. But we should learn from the mistakes of the advanced economies and not repeat their mistakes by polluting everything and damaging the countryside and displacing communities and so on.
Exactly. I mean, in reports, UN reports and other studies say that third world countries who rely heavily on fossil fuels could still use it, but as you said, use the money and revenue for a better climate.
Yes,
It's
yes,
important.
absolutely.
Otherwise, where will a place like Kurdistan region get its money from if it's not at this period from natural resources?
Yes, I know you do a lot in biodiversity and climate change and environmental protection. And I want to take the opportunity, if you don't mind, I don't want to embarrass you, but I want to take the opportunity to really appreciate what you do, Kake. You're a biodiversity champion, you're an environmentalist, and you've been doing it for a very long time, unrecognized. You don't do it for the gold medal. You do it because you believe in it. So thank you.
No, thank you very much. And since I do that and I spend most of my time in nature, despite my passion for the environment and climate change, I still say that we need to use other natural resources because climate work needs money, needs funds. Like,
Yes.
I'm not one of those radical activists to say we should completely ban fossil fuels, gas, oil. I, on the contrary, recognize its importance for the country, for any projects we have. You could use fossil fuels money to do climate projects.
Yes. I should add, I agree with everything you said. In addition to that, I should add that the KRG's policy is to diversify our economy. While oil and gas are extremely important and essential to our economy, we recognize that our whole economy shouldn't be beholden to the price of oil, that we should be able to boost agriculture, and a lot of work has been done on that. We should boost tourism, but also hopefully other areas of work. Very happy to say that there are steel factories in Kurdistan region, other types of businesses as well. The retail and real estate sectors are booming
Yes,
in
it's
Kurdistan.
huge. Going back to diplomacy in the US, we will come back to climate change and other topics maybe in a bit more detail. But when you go on a trip to the United States diplomatic mission, I'm sure there are diplomats and advisors from the generation who remember 1991 and the creation of KRG. But do you also come across people in the State Department or in the US in general who do not remember what happened, or you have to convince them or tell them the story from the start?
Yes, you're right. You meet both, and both have their own value. Somebody who's coming completely fresh also has their value in that they don't already have a position or a decision. But yes, I think explaining our history and our bond with the United States is a big part of our work, and also expressing our appreciation. I know some of our fellow Iraqis are embarrassed to thank the United States. We are not. Why should we be embarrassed? Operation Provide Comfort changed the trajectory of the Kurdistan region's future. We were under a genocidal dictatorship that used chemical weapons.
Yes.
And would have used them over and over again if it hadn't been stopped. So we are thankful to the United States. We are grateful they liberated Iraq in 2003. We are grateful they stood by us in 2014 when ISIS overran Sinjar and was heading towards Erbil as well. So we have a great deal to thank the United States for. But I also believe, and this was part of our message in Washington, I also believe that we have been good partners to the United States. We are partners who also do our own heavy lifting. While the United States has helped us, I think we have shared interests and we bring value to the partnership as well, whether it's in security. Our Peshmerga fought ISIS valiantly, heroically, made huge sacrifices, of course, with the support of the US-led coalition. We welcome American companies and American business. We have shared values on human rights, on women's rights, and so on. It doesn't mean Kurdistan is perfect, but it means that we have that vision and we have that drive.
Yeah.
So I think we bring a lot to the partnership too.
Exactly. And we have things to show for. For example, I remember when, as you said, ISIS came to the gates of Erbil in 2014. I remember watching President Obama's speech because they were criticized for not intervening in other parts that were invaded by ISIS. But he said the Kurdistan region is a place where all religious and ethnic groups live peacefully together. So we have evidence of some of the things that would justify these good relations.
Right. Well, I've been very privileged to have served in Washington, and over that time, I met so many Americans who had somehow, what I would call them, been a veteran of Iraq. Either they had served in Desert Storm in 91, or maybe in 2003, or later, 2014 onwards. Maybe they were in the Air Force and had policed the no-fly zone, or they were in the special forces. So there were so many people that I met in all walks of life. For example, I would perhaps go to a church group, and I would be thinking more about religious freedom, and then somebody would say, by the way, I was a pilot and I policed the no-fly zone.
Wow.
And it would be very moving for me, for them. So there is really a bond, I would say.
Exactly. And it's not only these diplomatic visits that you have recently been doing, you did it for 8 years in Washington.
Yes, I had the honor of representing the KRG in Washington from 2015 to 2023. And it was a very fascinating time, a critical time. January 2015, when I first arrived, ISIS was everywhere.
That's true.
And it was a huge humanitarian crisis. Millions of displaced people were heading towards Kurdistan or had headed towards Kurdistan. Our economy was on the brink of collapse because Baghdad had cut off the budget, oil prices had crashed. So it was a critical time. We had no weapons to fight ISIS.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Do you remember, what was your first 2 or 3 priorities when you arrived, and at this critical time, what did you have to work on?
It was, we need humanitarian assistance, we need weapons and ammunition. It was that blunt. And also to make sure that the people of America, as well as the Congress and the government of America, understood that they didn't need to put boots on the ground, because there was this whole issue about, was the intervention in Iraq in 2003 the right thing to do or not.
They did not want another war, basically.
Yes. And what I was trying to convey was that intervention doesn't always mean 100,000 troops on the ground. Intervention can be supporting a partner on the ground with training, with equipping, with humanitarian support, with diplomatic support. And then the coalition had just begun. If I remember correctly, the US decided to establish the De-ISIS or Defeat ISIS coalition in the fall of 2014. So when I arrived in Washington early 2015, that also became part of the work to ensure that coalition partners also provided weapons and training and humanitarian assistance, and appreciated that the Kurdistan Regional Government, the Peshmerga forces, and the people of Kurdistan were all part of this coalition. We're not bystanders. We are part of this. And we're pushing. Yes.
And how, in Washington, having lived there and worked there for 8 years, is there a room for everyone to do diplomacy in Washington, for every country, for every group?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Washington, I also worked in London. London's pretty similar in that it's a global capital. There are some capital cities that are just the capital of that country. But there are some global cities. I would actually even say New York is a global city. It's not the capital of the United States, but Washington is much smaller, of course. But politically and in terms of security, national security, Washington is a global capital, and everybody is there. Every company is there. Every group is there as an NGO. Many NGOs have a footprint in Washington, or they visit Washington frequently. And then every country has an embassy, and
everyone has a chance, probably.
Everyone has a chance. And I think one thing about lobbying, which of course was part of our work and is part of the work of the representation today, I think sometimes our countrymen in Kurdistan misunderstand lobbying. They imagine that we are the only people lobbying in Washington. They forget or don't appreciate that there are people lobbying against you in Washington.
While you lobby for yourself.
Not only you have to convey your story and your needs and your message. You have to counter what your detractors have been saying at the same time.
So exactly,
And they have a lot more money, by the way.
Exactly, stronger and richer and more powerful.
Yeah, they have more. For strong lobbying, you need a few key ingredients. You need to understand how lobbying works in that country. Every country is different. Washington is the capital of lobbying around the world. You have to understand how lobbying works, when to pull, when to push, when to stand back, when to be aggressive. You ideally need to have a diaspora there. We do have a Kurdish diaspora in the United States, but our numbers are very small, maybe 50,000 across the whole of the United States, 330 million people.
Yeah.
50,000 is not that many. Regardless, the Kurdish diaspora in America is very active and does its best, but the numbers are small. I compare that, for example, to the Armenians, who are maybe 1 million, 2 million. People often talk about the Turkish lobby or the Greek lobby. They're also very powerful. They have huge numbers.
And they have a longer history in America also, I think, than the Kurds, Armenians and Greeks and others.
Very true.
So
and then you need money. And when I say money, sorry to interrupt you, that was the third key ingredient, so I had to say it. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that among the biggest spenders on lobbying are countries like Japan and the UK and France and others. They are already very close partners with the United States. I mean, the UK and...
You would think they don't need lobbying, those countries.
but they do.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yes. But lobbying is not just the political stuff that you do in Washington. It's also cultural activities, it's trade, it's everything. So if you include all of that, then the biggest spenders will actually surprise you.
And what could a diaspora community do for the lobbying of their country? Let's say the Kurds in the US, you said there are 50,000 across the US?
Estimated. Nobody knows the real number.
If they were 150,000, like what would you expect them to contribute to the Kurdish diplomatic or lobbying efforts, usually, not just the Kurds or any diaspora community?
I think this would apply to the Kurdish diaspora, not only in America, in Canada, in Europe, everywhere. I think, number one, be a good citizen of that country. Be a good citizen, meaning first and foremost, a law-abiding citizen, respecting the culture and customs of that country. And then go about your life. I mean, if you're a student, be a good student. You're a businessman or businesswoman, doctor, etc. Being good at whatever you do makes you a good ambassador.
Very true.
So just that, I think you don't necessarily have to be politically active. I mean, I know of very successful doctors, both in the UK and in the United States, who are of Kurdish origin. They're just very successful, highly regarded doctors. In their own field, they end up making friends, and they bring groups of doctors with them to the Kurdistan region during their summer vacations or winter vacations, and they spend 1 or 2 weeks here conducting operations for free.
Exactly.
So that is something that they're doing that is in their profession. They have succeeded. They are very loyal, patriotic Americans, but also remembering their place of origin and their homeland.
I think that's what also America expects from migrants or people who go to live there.
Yes. Be law-abiding, be a good citizen of that country. I don't think there's an issue in being a loyal American, but also very conscious of your homeland and your place of origin.
I remember during the war with ISIS, I was sitting with my landlord in Canada, and he asked me where I was from, and I said I was a Kurd, and he said, I don't know much about Kurds, but I have never read any bad press about the Kurds.
How refreshing.
Yeah, that's good. If you don't have good things, at least, as you said, law-abiding, you have a good image, it
Yes.
helps in its own way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like you, I guess, I am part of the diaspora. I was only 11 years old when my family moved to the UK, so I grew up in London. And so I have always seen the diaspora as part of the Kurdish movement. And I know that His Excellency President Barzani recognizes that too. And I think the Kurdish diaspora continues to play an important role.
Speaking of the UK, you did 10 years of diplomacy or representing the KRG in the UK.
Yes, that's right.
That's before going to the US.
That's right. I joined the KRG in 2005 as representative to the United Kingdom. And then 10 years later, I went to Washington. But I had, as I mentioned, I had already grown up in the UK. I worked as a journalist. I'm a British citizen, a proud British citizen, a very proud citizen of Kurdistan as well, of course. So switching careers was an interesting experience. I know you do a lot of journalism, KKU. So, for 17 years, I had worked as a journalist in British newspapers. And then overnight, I became a diplomat representing the Kurdistan regional government. And I had to change my mindset, and I had to I suddenly became very cautious because I wasn't just speaking for myself anymore.
Yeah,
I was representing a government. And so I think at the beginning I tried to say nothing because I was so worried. But eventually I realized I have to speak.
exactly. That's part of the mission.
Yes. But it was very interesting to be on the other side of questions because as a journalist, I was the one asking the questions. And then suddenly I was representing a government, and this was 2005 when Iraq was the big story everywhere, including in London. And so I was being asked questions, and I had to have an answer for everything. So it was a challenge.
Your journalism background must have helped, because when you are on the other side, you sometimes wish the person you talk to said the line or the sound bite that's in your head. So in this case, you could probably, it has helped for you to communicate better to the press.
Maybe. I hope so. I mean, I've tried to bring to the job whatever skills I have. I see public service as a very noble profession or calling. I think it's more than a profession. I think it's a calling. And I see it as very noble to serve your country in whatever capacity. And we all serve our country differently. Not everybody has to be in government to serve their country. Many in the private sector have done incredible things to serve our country. Many in the civil society field, in arts, in culture. We're all serving our country. In my case, I'm in public service, and I see it as a very noble calling, and I want to do my best. So whatever skills I have, whether it's the fact that I speak English fluently, I worked as a journalist, whatever I can bring to it, I will bring to it.
Exactly. And the UK also was a major part of the no-fly zone and the decision in 1991.
Yes.
How is their side of the story? Also, they must know their involvement, and since then we have maintained relations, I think.
Yes. Well, the UK's involvement in Kurdistan and Iraq generally goes back, centuries, I guess, but you could at least say at least 1 century. So I think the knowledge and depth of understanding is easily there in the UK. And definitely the UK is a very, very important partner for the Kurdistan region. I'm focusing a lot on the UK and the United States because of my service there. But I would also mention many other countries: France, Germany, Italy, neighboring countries, Australia, Canada. All of these players are neighbors. They have all played a very important role. So the fact that I'm focusing on two countries is really because of my own experience. But certainly there is a bond with the UK. When I served as KRG representative, I visited Scotland many, many times. I visited Northern Ireland, Wales, and I would say that we have an affinity with the Scots. Scotland is about the size of the Kurdistan region. It also has highlands and mountains. The people have this independent spirit, and there's a very interesting affinity, I would say, between us and the Scots. And then also, I would say, with Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland has that history of conflict. And then the Good Friday Agreement of 1997. And then suddenly the trajectory for Northern Ireland changed. It became a place of tourism. It became a place of investment. And a lot of that reminded me of Kurdistan region after 2003. That, of course, we already had a peace in Kurdistan. But really after 2003, Kurdistan opened up and became a place for investment and tourism and opening up to the world.
And that's true. When you are given a chance, like Northern Ireland or Kurdistan, you could progress a lot, as we have evidence. But going back to the UK, there is, I think, much larger Kurdish community in the UK than in the US. Am I right?
Yes, there is. Again, the numbers are always estimates, but maybe 200,000 in the UK.
Can we say Kurds from the Kurdistan region, 200,000, or Kurds in general?
Maybe altogether, if you put everybody together, maybe 250,000. Because over the decades, many Kurds from Turkey, Iran, Syria have also migrated to the UK, mostly as refugees. And maybe the migration started earlier, maybe as early as the 60s and 70s. My family, we went there in the 70s.
And the UK is closer to
Yes.
this region than the US.
Yes.
Wow. So in the UK, it was the same in London, dealing with the governments, doing lobbying, diplomacy, similarities. Which one was easier? Which one more complicated?
I'd say lobbying is unique in Washington. It's a profession, and it's expected that you will lobby. And lobbying needs to be part of your operation, whether you're a business, an NGO, or a government or a diplomatic mission. Lobbying has to be a big part of your operation. Of course, in London too, you are lobbying. You're meeting with members of parliament. You're meeting with different government ministries and departments. And in this UK system, you're visiting the different nations, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland as well. So there is lobbying, but it's somehow different. As I said, in Washington, it's unique. It's a whole industry.
It's a lobbying place.
Yes.
And now the last 2 years, you have been senior advisor to the Prime Minister on foreign affairs and climate change.
Yes.
So in that, you have been working with the neighbors of the Kurdistan region or Iraq, especially the Gulf states.
Yes.
How are diplomatic relations or relations in general with the Gulf states and the Kurdistan region?
The relationship is great with the Gulf countries and with all of our neighbors, including Turkey, for example, Jordan. We strive to have good relations with everybody as the Kurdistan region, with Iran, with Turkey, with Syria now. And of course, the Gulf countries are very important players. All of them are very important players. And for me personally, it's been very interesting after 18 years where I focused on the UK for 10 years, Washington, or North America, actually. We also covered Canada from Washington. North America only. Now the honor of working with Prime Minister Barzani as his advisor, we're looking at the entire world. So it's a big change in mindset for me. It's opened up the whole world, and I've had to learn a lot about not only different countries, but the different groupings like the Gulf Cooperation Council. So it's been very, very interesting. Already the KRG has had a very good relationship with, for example, the United Arab Emirates, with Kuwait, with Saudi Arabia. So, I don't want to mention too many countries and then leave out others, but generally we definitely have very good relations. And I would also say the Kurdish leadership has very good personal relations with the leadership of, for example, the Emirates and Saudi Arabia and so on. And those personal relationships mean so much and have such a positive impact as well.
I was going to ask, is it helpful to have strong personal leader-to-leader relation?
In every situation, that's the case. And of course, with our neighbors, it's been extremely helpful.
And Kurdish leaders always emphasize, or they repeat, the fact that the Kurdistan region is neutral, does not want to be part of any conflict. And when I personally read history books, where whatever country has remained neutral during major conflicts like First World War, Second World War, they have succeeded and moved forward. How important it is for a country or for a place like the Kurdistan region to be neutral.
It's really essential. First and foremost, we're not a sovereign state. We are part of Iraq. And in terms of strategic foreign policy, we are part of Iraq. So we follow that outlook. However, we are a region that has relations and has had them predating the new Iraq, predating 2003. So it's essential that we remain a factor for peace. I think even beyond being neutral, the Kurdistan region and the leadership has tried very, very hard for Kurdistan to be a factor for peace and stability within Iraq, and even, let's say, sometimes beyond our borders. We have tried, for example, to work with our fellow Kurds, our brothers and sisters in Syria, in Rojava, in Bakur, in Rojhelat, to be a factor for peace for them in the countries that they are part of. And I think that's essential.
Yeah.
We have suffered through so many conflicts, generation after generation, of your family, my family, the viewers' families. Have suffered through genocide, terrorism, executions of members of their families, political prisoners, displacement. I mean, the trauma goes on. And we need to be the generation that tries to stop that.
Exactly. For
future
our
generations.
neighbors as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said you joined exactly 20 years ago the Kurdistan Regional Government. What can we say is Kurdish diplomacy now, or Kurdistan at the moment, what's Kurdistan region's place in the world, let's say, now, in the last 20 years, since you have seen it evolve?
Yes. Well, it's a very good question because we're an unusual player. We're not a sovereign state in the traditional nation-state format, let's say. But we are not just a province either. We are a region and we punch above our weight. I would say the Kurdistan region has to be counted when anybody looks at the Middle East. And you see that if you look at what happened after October 7, 2023, and it changed the dynamics in the Middle East. If you look at who passed through the Kurdistan region to come and consult our leadership, if you look at the political and diplomatic and security representatives of different countries who passed through because they wanted to know what is the Kurdistan region's leadership's opinion. Besides October 7, I would also, for example, mention after the big change that happened in Syria in December, last December, many people were passing through Kurdistan to consult the Kurdish leadership.
That's true.
So I think anybody who is considering developments in the Middle East has to consider the role of the Kurdistan region, because we are a factor for stability. We are a factor for peace. We have influence in Baghdad. We may even have influence sometimes with our neighbors. And you look at, for example, Prime Minister Masrour Barzani's participation at Davos, at the World Economic Forum. He must have one of the busiest programs. I think the last one, if I remember correctly, he had 30 to 40 engagements.
Wow.
In the space of maybe 3 days. President Nechirvan Barzani attends the Munich Security Conference, and he has a similarly packed program. This doesn't happen by chance. Of course, his team, our team, we're working on, arranging these appointments. But many, many foreign ministers, defense ministers, business people want to meet them because they want to know what's happening in Iraq, but also what is their view, what is their reading, what is their role in the wider region as well.
Yes, Kurdistan region cannot be ignored, because if it comes to bitter experiences, we have seen it all. If it comes to fighting terrorism, we have done it. And these diplomatic engagements and visits are also, I'm sure, the result of years of hard work. As you said, it did not come by out of the blue. Years of hard work, diplomacy, and efforts, plus the bad experiences we have had.
Yes.
That's where the recognition comes from.
Yes, and I would say if we look at Kurdistan more broadly, meaning in Iran, Turkey, and Syria, in each of those countries, the Kurdish population can no longer be ignored, even if you're only talking about elections. When there are elections in Turkey, the Kurdish vote matters. When there are elections in Iran, the Kurdish vote matters. And we see that in the campaigning.
Exactly.
And in Syria, I hope there will be elections one day. But even today, when you're talking about the future of Syria, the Kurdish population, the northeast Syria population can no longer be ignored.
Exactly. As we were once isolated for decades.
Yes.
And locally speaking, nationally across Iraq, the Kurdistan region has also been a major part in putting Iraq back on its feet since the regime change of 2003. We have many issues and disputes and disagreements, but we are an integral part also of the new system in Iraq.
Yes, absolutely. In 2003, President Barzani, Massoud Barzani, President Mam Jalal, they both went to Baghdad, and they were a key part of the writing of the constitution. The Peshmerga, or the Kurdish forces, I should say, were in the first new division of the newly created or the renewed Iraq. So we committed our forces to be part of the new Iraqi army. We committed our top Kurdish leadership, political leadership, to be part of the new Iraq politically, and we have invested in that system. We're not necessarily happy with what's happening today, but we believed that this was the opportunity for a federal, democratic, pluralistic Iraq that included everybody, whether you were Yazidi or Assyrian or Christian or Muslim, you were part, or Turkmen, you were part of this new Iraq. This new Iraq counted every citizen as equal. And this has been the underlying goal of the Kurds and Kurdistan's participation in the new Iraq. As I said, we're not necessarily happy with where everything is today, but that has to be the new Iraq. We can't go backwards. We cannot go back to centralization. Centralization in the Middle East is not successful.
That's a very
And
good
you know,
point.
there are many who say federalism doesn't work in the Middle East. I disagree wholeheartedly. Look at the United Arab Emirates. It's a federation. Why is that successful? Why do we say it won't work in Iraq? It
Maybe
does work if given a chance.
is it because they don't understand, those who say that, really how it works, or they haven't seen examples?
I think they see it as a threat to the unity of Iraq. But our argument is that if you want a united Iraq, you need to have federalism.
It will actually strengthen
Yeah.
the unity of Iraq. And now in your your current role as being advisor on foreign affairs and climate change to the Prime Minister, you deal with Iraq more probably so than you have ever dealt with
Yes.
Baghdad.
That's very
on
true.
climate change especially.
That's very true. I think previously, when I worked in London and Washington, I would, of course, work with the Iraqi embassies in London, Washington, New York, Ottawa. We visited the embassy in Ottawa. But, you know, we engaged with them, and maybe my engagement was probably more with the foreign ministry. But you're absolutely right, Kak Ayub. In my current role as advisor on climate change, I do engage with Baghdad. I have visited Baghdad a few times. We engage probably mostly with the Ministry of Environment, but also with some of the Prime Minister's advisors in Baghdad and the Water Ministry, for example. And we need much, much more cooperation and coordination with Baghdad on climate change. And in fact, cross-border cooperation as well, because, you know, the rivers, you know, they originate, for example, in Turkey or elsewhere. The desertification doesn't just start within the border of Iraq.
Exactly.
It
Nor
starts-
it stops there.
No, yes, exactly. So, and even the dust storms, they aren't self-contained in Erbil or Baghdad or Basra. They travel actually from across the country. Some come from Syria, some come from the south. So collectively, as a region, meaning the Middle East, we need to work together. And within Iraq, we need to work together, and we need to be cooperating a lot more.
Exactly. And I've often heard you say in conferences and places that the issue of climate change in Iraq should not be politicized between Erbil and Baghdad.
Yes, absolutely. There's no gain. There's no gain to be made by making climate change, and climate change encompasses so many things, but very broadly, there's no gain to be made by making climate change a political football. We both lose. We all lose. The people will lose. We will lose our forests. We will lose our clean water. We will lose our clean air. We will lose opportunities for funding for our projects that can help clean the environment or protect the quality of the soil or help us make the most of whatever rain there is. We need funding for those kinds of projects.
Yeah, that's very true, because climate change and it affects everyone globally, and in Iraq, everyone. For example, if we lose our waters, Iraq will be even more affected. If they lose their land to desertification, we will feel it. And that's one of
Yes.
the topics you have mentioned before is climate migration. Is a major concern among international organizations and those concerned with population movements. That climate change is climate migration is already a reality in Iraq, and they move further up to the other provinces. And I've heard you say that in the end, and I've read reports, not just you, from IOM and others, that they might all or most of them head towards the Kurdistan region.
Yes, absolutely. There is already displacement in southern Iraq because of water disputes and lack of water. And yes, if we don't collectively, again, it's a collective effort, if we don't collectively deal with the issue of water scarcity, then the migration will get bigger. It'll cause conflicts, maybe conflicts between tribes and communities, but it could widen beyond that. It could even be weaponized by terrorist groups. So, for example, you deprive a community of their water, driving them somewhere else. That's a weapon, that would be a deliberate weaponization of water scarcity to force migration, to force conflict on people. But the migration won't stop here. This is our message, has been our message to our European friends. Eventually, the migration will go to Europe. So we need our European partners to help us today to mitigate, to adapt, to cope with this situation so that this migration really doesn't happen in this catastrophic way, that it can be managed. And really, honestly, most communities want to stay where they are. Who in the South wants to give up their thousands years old culture of the marshes, which is really a worldwide treasure,
Exactly.
right? It's not just a treasure for us in Iraq, it's a treasure for the globe. Why would we want that to disappear? Wouldn't we all want that to continue?
The place of Adam and Eve. It's said that that's where they landed. So exactly, they should not be lost. Those marshes, we both, as you say, Iraq and the Kurdistan region have a lot to lose from climate change, but also a lot to gain if we work together. We are connected through the land and rivers and unfortunately dust storms, also the negative impacts.
Yes. But if I may, Kakeyub, I do want to not just be gloomy about climate change, because I think there is a danger when you talk about certain subjects like genocide or climate change, that you become so gloomy that people feel like, oh, there's nothing we can do. But that's not the case. With genocide, we can bear witness. First and foremost, listen to the victim and bear witness to what happened to them. That is a huge part of genocide, because genocide denial is part of continuing genocide. So by bearing witness, you as an individual are doing something. But of course, there are other things. There's the justice side of it, reconciliation, compensation. So I'm just saying that sometimes when we talk about genocide, we become so gloomy, people lose hope.
Or give up. Yeah.
Or give up. But we should not. There are things we can do as individuals, as governments, as societies. The same with climate change. There is a lot that is catastrophic about climate change, but we can do things. And what I'm so happy about, just in the 2 years that I've been doing this job, is how many young people in Kurdistan are totally committed to climate action, just off their own back. They are already doing things. They are planting trees as NGOs. They are engaged in international dialogue as youth activists. They participate in international conferences. And also, there are so many fantastic NGOs in Kurdistan region, that some that are supporting villages to live only with solar-powered energy, for example. But also as KRG, I can't allow this to go ahead, our discussion to go ahead, without mentioning the Runaki project.
Yes.
Runaki is a project to bring 24-hour electricity to everybody in Kurdistan, and it's been incredibly successful. I believe 700, 800,000 people already have 24-hour electricity, and for 80% of those people, their electricity bill has been reduced.
Yeah.
But the climate side of that
Yes.
is that besides providing this excellent service, as a result of that, hundreds or thousands of private generators have been decommissioned, have been removed. So the noise pollution and the air pollution has been reduced enormously.
Exactly.
And those of us who live in Erbil and live with the pollution that sits on Erbil because it doesn't have a breeze, we can already feel it. And so this is a project that began in the Prime Minister's office and, of course, with the support of the Electricity Ministry and others, has been dispersed over other parts of Kurdistan, all over Kurdistan, I should say, and will continue until it covers everybody. This has made a huge difference already to the quality of life of our people.
Most people may not see the climate side of it, but you are so right. It's a major climate action. It could be, I think, counted, even though it's for Runaki to provide 24-hour electricity, it could be separately counted as a climate action, because that's what is on the list of Iraq and Kurdistan on what to do in the next 10 years, reduce emissions.
Yes.
We just name it a major emission reduction movement.
It is, absolutely. It's been highly successful, and I wish the team, want to congratulate them, but also wish them continued success. Another success I think that we've had is building ponds and dams to harvest the rainwater that we have, but also develop these ecosystems and renewed biodiversity in those areas, as well as tourism.
Yes.
So I think maybe this is more your field and you should be talking about this more than me, but I think that's another success and something that we've been doing as a government and private sector. But what I want to say is that while there is a lot that we can all be very afraid of with climate change, it doesn't mean that we can't do things. We can, as individuals, as groups, as villages, as cities. There's a project for a green belt around Erbil. Duhok, I know, has many projects for parks, huge parks across Duhok. In Slemani, there are huge projects for water, for parks. So there are many, many things that we can do, and we shouldn't lose hope.
That's very true. And usually you do things before it's too late. The effects of climate change have happened, are happening, but they are not as catastrophic as one might think. So we are in the beginning of it, whether it's the Kurdistan region and working with its partners. You are right. We could do things and not just sit back and say it's too late or everything is lost.
Yes.
And part of that, you work with a lot of international organizations, the UN, UNAMI, IOM. In these meetings and efforts, I know your office is pushing the Kurdistan's ambitions for climate work.
Yes.
And working together. It's challenging sometimes with fund cuts and things.
Yes. Yes, unfortunately, climate change has suffered a huge cut in funding globally, with the United States shifting its focus, and even Europe deciding to spend more on defense and less on humanitarian and climate action. But the way our office works is that we really coordinate with the relevant ministries. So that's the Ministry of Agriculture and Water Resources, the Environment Board of the KRG, Ministry of Municipalities and Tourism, which deals with waste and recycling and water projects as well. and other ministries as they come up, for example, electricity, Ministry of Natural Resources to do with emissions. So we coordinate with them, we work with them, we are not replacing them. We're not a ministry, we're a tiny team, a handful of very dedicated and committed people. But that's really what we do. But because of our work also on foreign affairs, as you said, we're constantly meeting with UN agencies, with the consulates. And so we're able sometimes to bring assistance through that channel and then connect them, for example, with the Environment Board, who do a fantastic job, often unrecognized. They're often the unsung heroes.
I feel like
Of
they built
environment.
themselves up, the Board of Environment.
Yes.
It's their own work and dedication. You're right.
Yes, yes. And also we try to coordinate with Baghdad, for example, to ensure that in the Iraq negotiating team at the UN COP conferences, where there are negotiations, global negotiations, of course, Iraq, like any other country, has a negotiating team. There are representatives from the Kurdistan region who are part of that team as well. So we are coordinating, we are trying sometimes to build bridges, we are advising the Prime Minister on what's coming ahead, what's the direction of the global dialogue on climate. So that's really our role.
Climate diplomacy is going on.
Yes.
And one of the things, I think one of the achievements, let's say, of the Prime Minister's Climate Unit was making the Kurdistan region a member of the International Mountain Partnership.
Yes.
With countries that are known as mountain countries.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Kurdistan region is a member of the Mountain Partnership. It's a group of countries with mountains, and mountains are described as water towers because of the snow that they capture. But also mountain communities have their own challenges with climate change. So we're very proud that Kurdistan region is part of that. We are also in the process of hopefully joining the IUCN, which is the biggest biodiversity grouping in the world, and plays a very important role on protecting biodiversity. We're in the process of hopefully joining that as well.
And apart from that, some countries are willing to cooperate with the Kurdistan region on a lower level, providing, let's say, meteorological stations, equipment. At that level also, I think
Yes.
work is being done, or cooperation.
Yes, absolutely. We've worked with the UK consulate. They've provided some assistance that's kind of more, let's say, desk work, not necessarily in the field, but they've provided some assistance and advice, which has been very, very helpful. Just today, actually, this morning, we had a virtual meeting with an organization in the Netherlands. And again, this was through the consulate, the Dutch consulate. And we're talking to them about some work that they might do here later this year. They might visit the Kurdistan region and assist and provide capacity building support. So I don't want to say too much about that because I didn't ask their permission if I could discuss it publicly. But those are examples where we have been working with consulates and diplomatic missions. The IOM, they have assisted us. For example, they did a workshop for the KRG participants in COP29. Which was the big COP conference in Azerbaijan last November. And IOM did a workshop where they briefed all of the participants. What is COP? Is this huge, tens of thousands of people participate in this conference every year. What is discussed and what can you do as an individual? What can you do as a representative of Kurdistan? And it was very, very helpful.
Last year, I think Kurdistan's participation was amazing at COP29.
Yes, well, you were there. You were part of that
Yes.
amazing participation. It was, for many of us, it was the first time going there. For me personally, it was the second COP that I had participated in, but it was the first time where we engaged at such a level, where we had every day we had panels where KRG and Kurdish universities and NGOs were discussing the situation. I'm not sure how it'll be in Belém in Brazil this year. It's very, very expensive. Even I think European countries are finding it very difficult. I think Brazil is working on that. They're working on, for example, accommodation has become a very serious challenge because of the venue of the conference. So I think Brazil is working on it, but I really honestly don't know if we'll be able to participate to the same level and degree.
That's true. And so now you live in Erbil.
Yes.
How's life in Erbil? How has it been? Has it been 2 years, you said, since
Yes,
you returned from
I remember
Washington?
we landed on the 1st of September 2023. So it's pretty much 2 years since I moved back here with my family. And we're fine. We enjoy living here. Kurdistan region has developed very rapidly over the past 25 years. And so for somebody from the diaspora moving back now, I think it's a very different kettle of fish from somebody who maybe moved back in 2000 or 2003 or 4. We have electricity, we have water, we have everything. I mean, life here, I have children, there are cinemas, there are sports clubs, there's horse riding if you want that. Not that I go horse riding, but I'm just saying that life here is normal.
You had only probably seen it on visits before moving back.
Yes. So no, touch wood, we're all very comfortable here, very happy to be here. And I'm very proud and honored, really genuinely very proud and honored to be serving in the Kurdistan regional government and right now to be working with Prime Minister Masrour Barzani. It's a great privilege. He really is a visionary and he is very methodical and very exacting. He's very demanding of his team, as he should be. Right? Because he is serving the people and he expects us to deliver. So it's a real privilege to work in that kind of atmosphere.
Thank you so much, Bayan Khan, for
Thank you.
once again coming to Erbil edition. Very eye-opening. As I said in the messages, come and enlighten me and the audience on Kurdish diplomacy and everything. Thank you so much.
You're very generous, but I think you've also enlightened me, and we've worked together on climate change, and you brought so many years of personal experience and professional experience to that. So thank you, Kakayub. Thank you for giving me so much time in your podcast.
Oh, no, you are
And by the way, I'm a champion podcast listener.
Really?
I listen to probably 10 or 20 podcasts a day. I listen to them when I'm working. I listen to them when I'm doing housework, anytime. So I'm an addict. So I love to support other podcasts.
So thank you. Thank you once again. And hopefully this will be one of those podcasts that you will listen to or watch.
I will. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.